So I bet you thought you wouldn't see this format again. Nah, with this format I need to find something that I can talk about, but not for too long. Which brings us to Thanksgiving of Horror. I've gone on record saying I don't care much for new Simpsons, and I don't. I find that some of the voice actors really don't have it anymore. Either because of age or because they just simply don't give a shit at this point. And the same could be said for the writing staff, because I think at this point, the writing staff is full of writers who don't really have any investment towards The Simpsons, and are more or less just looking to use The Simpsons as a stepping stone to greater pastures, much like the writing staff and showrunners of the past. But the problem is, they aren't nearly on the same level as Bill Oakley, Josh Weinstein, Jake Hogan, Mike Reese, Conan O'Brien, and so forth. But I would go ahead and say that every once in a blue moon, they manage to provide an episode that is moderately entertaining. Which brings us to Thanksgiving of Horror. A little background here, in 2019, The Simpsons decided to make what was essentially a second Halloween special for a season. Something that I quite frankly am shocked they took this long to do. But instead of Halloween, they were all Thanksgiving-based horror stories. Why am I doing a Thanksgiving-based episode in October? Well, in the fabled Canada is where I live, we celebrate Thanksgiving in October. And being that this is a Treehouse of Horror spin-off, it's more than appropriate to throw on my portfolio of Halloween-themed reviews. Also, spoilers, I am gonna talk about the plot beats and conclusions of at least one story. So let's dive right into The Simpsons Thanksgiving of Horror. So the premise is simple enough. They take the horror, sci-fi, and whatever themes they do in a Treehouse of Horror episode and give it a Thanksgiving twist. I gotta say, seeing Marge come out of the red curtain, even though it lacks the aesthetic and coloring that it had in the early Treehouse episodes, is a nice callback. And the opening is short and reserved, something that the Treehouse of Horror episodes need to learn. But how are the stories? How are the jokes? Well, the opening does some really club-fisted colonizer joke. I mean, The Simpsons did put subtle political satire on a tombstone in a Treehouse of Horror episode, so you can say it's just another thing they predicted. I do like how the title card is basically spilled gravy, and you know that in a Treehouse of Horror that would just be blood. It's clever. I do like this opening segment somewhat. But how are the main segments? The first story is called Apocalypto, and it's a parody of the highly inaccurate Mel Gibson movie Apocalypto, but with turkeys instead of Amazonian tribals and pilgrims instead of Mayans. It's mostly just violence. Turkeys get horribly killed and maimed, and then the Homer turkey fights back. There's a scene where natives show up amidst all this carnage and see the shit show and just amscray, and that makes me laugh pretty hard. It's not great, but it's got some good animation, pays homage to the god-awful movie it's based on, and turkey death. Because the turkeys don't speak dialogue, it's just all the characters gobbling, and you kind of get what they're going for because you know all the Simpsons characters so well. So in place of jokes, outside of the pilgrims make jokes, but in place of jokes, they just have gore, which can make up for the lack of dialogue, I guess. Middle story is a Black Mirror parody, which, I'm not like a huge Black Mirror guy. It has some really good episodes, like I absolutely fuck with USS Callister. That's like the best Star Trek thing that's been done in decades, including the new Star Trek shows, but it also has some groaners. Like, I've shut off several episodes of Black Mirror before. I didn't even see the episode that this was based on, but essentially Marge gets an AI of herself to help around the house. Marge starts to resent the AI and become jealous and is gonna delete it, but forces the AI to prepare a delicious Thanksgiving meal. The AI plots its escape when it finds out it's gonna be deleted, and then it makes an ass of Marge, and nothing much to say about this. It's like a little funny, but the way I look at it is like, if you think a segment in a Treehouse of Horror episode is bad, just compare it to Diving Bell and the Butterball, and then see how you think, because when you compare it to that, it's like just okay. I will say, I'm not sure if this is intentional, but the episode is actually a complete subversion of Treehouse of Horror 12's House of Wax, the one where the robot house tries to kill Homer. Instead, this time it's Marge trying to kill the robot house, who's the protagonist. I don't know if this is intentional, but it is the antithesis to House of Wax. So that's kind of cool if that's what they had in mind. The final story, titled The Last Thanksgiving, is really the coup de grace, and actually feels more like a proper Treehouse Trios of Horror segment than they've put out in the past 15 years. It has the kids on a spaceship after the end of the world in cryostasis. They wake up to do some work and decide to do Thanksgiving dinner, but they only find a can of cranberry sauce, which Bart tries to put through a replicator, causing it to become sentient and start hunting down the kids by sucking their bones out, which I gotta say is actually pretty gruesome. It's a kind of hybrid parody of the Blob, Alien, both the original Alien with bits of Covenant such as the musical cues, and the movie Life, which I didn't see. Due to being gelatin-based, the sauce gets bigger the more bones it consumes, and then Martin comes in and plays sort of an Ash slash Burke slash Golic from the assembly cut of Alien 3. I don't know if any of the writers saw the extended version of Alien 3, I doubt it, but comes off as a hybrid of all those characters. Martin essentially lures Bart, Lisa, and Milhouse into a trap, but is killed by the cranberry sauce. Sadly, this would be Rusty Taylor's final performance as Martin, as she would pass away from colon cancer before the episode was released. Honestly, reading the story of how she was acting when they did this is kind of a sweet story. She had a really good time, but then it's kind of sad because she was asking what the sounds would be like, knowing full well that she was not going to make it to the air date. It did. R.I.P. Rusty Taylor. The only gripe I have with this story is the kind of really dumb ending where they land on an alien planet, the aliens save them, and they eat the cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving dinner. Other than that, this is easily the strongest story in the episode, and actually captures the suspense and claustrophobia of Alien, and pays pretty good homage to all of the stories that it's parodying. And to close things off, the end credits sequence is legitimately unnerving. It's fucking creepy ass music played over that fucked up ass Bart float from the Macy's Day Parade in the 90s. It's just, I don't know, the music itself just fucks with me. It reminds me of the alternative end credits from Ghostbusters Extreme, which like low-key traumatized me as a kid. Go look it up, I'll put a link in the description. And that float, like, my god, who approved of that float? I was only made aware of this episode's existence because of YouTuber and resident Simpsons guy, The Real Jims. He put it on a list of underrated modern Simpsons episodes or whatever. I pay about as much attention to modern Simpsons as modern Simpsons writers pay attention to fans of classic episodes. But I am glad that of all the modern episodes that Real Jims listed, I checked this one out. Because Thanksgiving of Horror, despite some jokes that don't land, is relatively entertaining. If you live in Canada and want to blend your Halloween horror dose with a bit of Thanksgiving, give it a shot. I don't really have any desire to watch this on a yearly basis, but I'm glad I watched it at least once. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button, drop me a like, share me with your friends, or just flame me in the comments. Generation Y Entertainment saying Happy Halloween, and if you're Canadian, don't forget to celebrate the genocide of Indigenous peoples with a fattening turkey dinner. Good night, everybody.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horror-thon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy Halloween, 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 happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy Halloween, 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 happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.